Welcome back to CityLine. Joining me now from TPU is the Interim Director, Linda McCrea. Welcome to our show, Linda. Along with Bill Baarsma, former mayor and president of the Tacoma Historical Society. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
And Bryan King, the Watershed Manager at Tacoma Public Utilities. And welcome, Bryan.
Thank you.
Now, Linda, huge event coming up here, or a celebration rather, for the 125th anniversary of TPU. Tell us a little bit about the utility itself and what this means to the organization.
Sure, thanks, Jeff. So Tacoma Public Utilities provides power and water service to Tacoma and the community, and rail switching in the port. And we've been doing that for 125 years. We are very proud partners in this community. Our services support quality of life, a healthy economy, and we believe that we have provided reliable service to this community ever since the citizens voted to purchase the power and water company from Charles Wright 125 years ago, in hopes of having reliable service, quality drinking water, and we have been providing that for that amount of time, and so we're very proud of that.
Excellent. So in addition to Tacoma, what other communities does TPU serve?
So Tacoma Public Utilities sources of power and water are not located within the city. They're located out in other counties. And the infrastructure then to transmit the power and water into the city allowed for regional service. And so we serve University Place and Ruston. We serve parts of Puyallup, Lakewood. Power serves all of Fife and Fircrest. We even serve Tacoma Water, a little town up Cumberland, up in King County. We serve parts of Federal Way, so much of unincorporated Pierce County. So I think we serve 8 different cities and within 2 counties. So quite a extensive service area.
Very nice, very nice. Bryan, one of TPU's long-serving employees is retiring this week. Or you are, I'm sorry. And what does the anniversary mean to you?
Well, it really means a lot to me. You know, I helped celebrate our 100th anniversary. So for the past 25 years, I've actually seen a lot of policy and rule changes and major construction projects at our water treatment facilities.
Excellent. And your connection to the watershed goes much farther back than your employment here. Tell us about that.
Well, my father used to work for 29 years for Tacoma Water.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm just completing my 33rd year.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Thanks for your service. That's amazing. So you've lived in Tacoma then that whole time, or in the...
Actually, I live near the watershed. I've been in the Watershed Manager, and so that's a fairly remote area. It's about 40 miles away.
Okay.
And I live up near the facilities.
Okay. Well, very nice. All right. So, Bill, you worked at TPU in the 1960s.
54 years ago, I want you to know.
What did you do?
Well, I was the Assistant Director of Public Information, worked for John Dean, who was a terrific boss, and it was during a really very important period in our history. There I am, yes. I'm on the cover of the Public Utility News, which I edited, by the way.
With the hard hat
up on the cover. That was my project during those summer months. And he was, as I say, a great boss. And of course, it was during a time in which the Monster Rock Dam was being built. And so we were trying to get as much stories as possible about that whole issue. And he took the big stories and gave me some of the throwaway stories. And one day he said, "Bill, why don't you check what's going on with the town of Rife, which is a little town that was going to be covered by the reservoir behind the dam." And found out that the people who were with the CityLine that were purchasing the property and they're going to move folks were really struggling with moving the cemetery and the remains in the cemetery. There were 170 people buried. And some of the grave markers were missing and such, and so it became kind of an interesting story. There were some records missing and some disputes, family disputes, and it was quite a storyline. So I wrote this piece for John, and And then I left, go back to graduate school, and shortly thereafter I got this big manila envelope, and that particular story, for John, the matrix was how many newspapers can we get these stories in? And that story appeared in over 20 newspapers.
Wow.
It became a real human interest story. In fact, there was more newspapers covered that story about the Mossy Rock project than any others. And so he sent me a little note saying, Bill, you really scored with this. And that was, I guess, my claim to fame. My story about Mossy Rock appeared in more, the Mossy Rock project appeared in more newspapers than any other. So it was a great experience. I loved it. I loved the people I worked with. Mr. Cliff Erdahl was the director at the time. And as a history guy, as I am, looking back in those years, it was a great experience to actually live that part of Tacoma's history. It was great.
Now, you just mentioned it as a historian. Tell us how it began and why did the water and power services end up moving from the private sector to the public sector?
Well, it's kind of an example of local municipal socialism at the time. That's what it was referred to. The measure was passed in April of 1893. It was fraught with controversy. Actually, the city was considering building a pipeline from the Green River back in the 1890s and found that it was cost prohibitive. And so they negotiated with Charles Wright to actually purchase his water and light utility, and did so at a $1.75 million. They floated the bonds. It was fraught with controversy. The city ended up suing Wright. They were promised certain things, and they felt that they weren't forthcoming. The water came in flumes, open flumes from Spanaway Lake. The cows were drinking the water, kids were jumping in the water. It wasn't very pure water. It ended up at the Hood Reservoir. We found a great source of water in South Tacoma, the South Tacoma Aquifer, very pure water, but we needed the electricity to pump it out, and that was cost prohibitive, and that initiated the construction of the first hydroelectric dam on the Nisqually River. So from 1910 actually to 1915 was quite a period in Tacoma's history. The Green River Pipeline was built, the first dam was built, the 11th Street Bridge was built during that period. It was the city took over the trolley line that would move the workers out onto the tide flats, and so it was a tremendous period. And of course, Tacoma Public Utilities was right in the middle of it. It was great. Excellent.
So, Linda, when you look at the 125th anniversary for the community and for the people who work at TPU, it obviously means a lot to Bryan, as him and his father have worked for the organization for over 50 years. So what does it mean to the general population of employees and the community as a whole?
Yeah, thank you. The Tacoma Public Utilities employees are very proud of the work that they do, and we have many employees who are multi-generational, whose parents and grandparents work for public utilities. My husband's grandfather worked for public utilities way back. So it's work that is really important in our community, and we are very proud of being a partner, and the Mayor Baarsma describing all the major elements of our systems, the infrastructure. We have about $2 billion worth of assets that we manage in order to be able to provide power, water, and rail switching services to our community. Over our history, the construction of those assets, and were accomplished as a result of really visionary leadership that we've always had, looking at what we need for the future, thinking and getting the community to support those projects to be able to build. We have 7 hydro dams that we receive about 50% of our power from. We have the Green River water supply, our groundwater supply, a very resilient water supply. And those assets have been providing service to this community for 125 years. And we project that we are well positioned to provide it for generations more without having to build more new assets to provide for growth and development. So we feel that the work we do is good for this community. It helps support the economy, and that we've done good planning. We need to continually be looking forward. But TPU employees are, the anniversary is an opportunity to look backwards and think about, honor our history, but also think about how do we continue that legacy forward, and future generations of employees provide the same good service to the community.
Right. And speaking of employees, Bryan, when you look at TPU's customers, and what would you want them to know about the people who work behind the scenes, to provide these vital services?
Well, there's a lot of people that are behind the scenes, whether it's in town, in our watershed, or at our filtration plant. Our facilities run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even in the worst weather. And so that ensures that we provide reliable, clean water to our customers.
Sure. And it's every time someone turns the hot or cold water on, there's many people behind the scenes that have made that happen. When they throw the light switch, when they plug in their charger for their smartphone or whatever, or when they ship something, obviously through rail, there's a lot of people behind the scenes. So I appreciate that.
Can I just say something about
go
that?
ahead.
Also, being a public utility, it's really important to us that we connect with our communities, and we really have always prided ourselves in providing top-notch customer service and being a part of this community. Tacoma Public Utility employees are very generous with their time and resources. They do a lot of volunteer work in this community, very involved in the community. So, we're proud of what we do in our day job, but we also are very proud to be community members, and are really happy about the way Tacoma has developed. And right now, with our anniversary, 125 years, is really an exciting time for this community, all the growth and the development, and we're proud to be part of that.
Excellent. Bill, while on the council and as mayor, you dealt with some important issues relating to TPU as well.
Yes.
And we're running short on time, so
Sure.
we can't get too elaborate, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts
The big one was Click Network, the telecommunications system, the largest municipally owned telecommunications system in North America when it was built. It was an extraordinary achievement, paid for in cash by the utility. And as Steve Klein said to me at the time, it's, we deliver. This will allow us to deliver the dumb electrons, electricity, in a more effective and efficient way, but also will allow us to deliver some smart electrons, i.e. a telecommunications service to our citizens. So that was a big deal and memorable, and it's something I spent a lot of time talking about. But of all the things that I remember, and I took the lead on that as a council member, that was a really big deal.
Very nice, very nice. Well, Linda, what's in store for the coming 125 years for TPU? I mean, I know you're already well positioned with, you're doing some solar stuff, you're doing, you just finished the filtration plant. And
Right.
So.
We believe we're very well positioned for the future, but we also know that things change. Probably the biggest game changer is going to be technology, as we've all seen. And in our lives, technology is changing how we, everything that we can do. And you hear about smart cities. Well, there's also smart utility concepts. Eventually, in the future, we will deploy sensors and have robotics that will allow a lot of the work on our system and decision making to all be automated, and our opportunity to engage in a different way with our customers will actually be something that we'll see sooner than later, because we are deploying automated meter reading infrastructure that will, over the next 5 years, that will allow us to have a much better sense of who uses power and water and when they use it, and how we can manage and make decisions around load and how we provide those services, and actually allow customers more opportunity to make decisions on how they use our services. So, and hopefully over the next 125 years, the really important work that we do, we rely on natural resources, on water, essentially for hydro and for drinking water. Mm-hmm. We do a lot to protect those resources, and focus on enhancement of habitat, in particular on fish, And we have endangered species that we do a lot of work to help increase those fish stocks. Maybe 125 years out, hopefully, we'll be back to not having endangered species. And the work we've done will really help protect and grow and bring back those fish stocks. So.
Great, thank you. Well, Bryan King, let me be the first to congratulate you on your retirement. Thank you for years of service, and
Thank you.
Just wish you the best. Linda McCrea, I know you're going out too for the second time now,
Yes.
so thank you for your service too, and we look forward to ushering in the new
Yes.
executive director, and hope she can do great things. And Bill, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we'll be back with more. The Art on the Ave is up next. Stay with us here on CityLine.